Hi, you surprised me. Hello, welcome back to How Do You Do? Today is a very special day. I was about to start a brand new series, something I've been very excited to show you. I thought it would be fun to get everyone a chance to see how a puppet is made for the main stage on NWCT. We've been doing lots of puppet crafts at home, which we will continue to do, but I wanted to make a puppet from start to finish. We're going to design a puppet, we're going to pattern a puppet, we're going to put it together, decide everything that has to go on this puppet, and share it with you. And you might even get to help with some of it along the way from your very own home. I'd like to introduce you to one of the Starlings. You may have caught one of the Starling shows at NWCT. The Starlings are a puppet troupe, the biggest puppet show that we've ever launched at NWCT. We did 3 years of the Starlings, and they're taking a little break right now, but I have a feeling they'll be back. So we took about 3 years. I took 3 years, 4 years if you count a year to get ready, learning how to make bird puppets. And over the 3 years, we've made over 100 different types of bird puppets. You'll see a bunch of them in the background, but these are big theatrical puppets. And the first thing we do before we get one of these, we'll talk more about this guy in a minute, is design. So let's talk about what goes into designing a puppet. In my puppet shop, I have supplies to make lots of puppets that I've been collecting over almost 5 years now. One of the things I collect a lot are books. I have tons of books about puppetry, how to make puppets specifically, or just about puppets in general. This is one of my favorite books. This is a giant fat book all about different types of puppetry around the entire world. Marionettes, shadow puppetry, puppets for TV, this is like a giant, lovely history book. I don't really make what's in this book, but this gives me tons of inspiration when I'm making new puppets. Mump&Chance, which is one of my favorite puppet companies in the entire world, and they're kind of movement theater and puppetry all put together in one. They're incredible. One of my favorites, The Muppets, anything Jim Henson. I am a huge Jim Henson fan. He was amazing, and I happen to have the 2 first books I ever got about puppetry. This is out of print, though I have found it from time to time, but I bought this, I think when I was 8 or 9, I got this book. I've had it ever since. And this is a book that actually Jim Henson made about how to make puppets out of stuff in your house. Some of these things I might be remaking with you at home, and then this is kind of what I've been trying and very inspired to do with our puppet videos, is trying to find stuff in your everyday home to make puppets with. This is a great book if you ever find a copy of it or can find a copy of it. It's fantastic. When I got it, it used to come with a kit, and it came with real Muppet eyes. And the first puppet I made was a sock puppet with a square head with a foam shoved into it. And I loved it very much. The second book I have is this book. This was from my library when I was in elementary school, and I still have it. I didn't steal it, I just didn't return it, and I forgot about it, and years later I found it. But this was a book I got when I was probably about 8. And I used to check it out all the time from the library, and eventually it didn't go back to the library. So Miss Wedeking, I'm really, really, really sorry. And Esther, who was my 5th grade teacher who volunteers at Children's Theater all the time, yes, this didn't make it back. But isn't it great that it's in the puppet shop making puppets for all the children? This is a lovely book. I also think it's out of print, but I made, as a small kid, a bunch of marionettes from this book. So these are 2 of my favorites. If you want to make puppets, I'm doing some videos, but there are lovely books, so many books about making puppets. I recommend getting one, and I think in general, what you're going to see as we make a puppet together is there are no rules. You get to kind of decide whatever you want when you make a puppet, and you discover so much when you make one. So I'm going to kind of lead this one. This is not going to be about how to necessarily. I'm just going to show you how I make puppets. They take hours, like hours and hours. I think one puppet takes roughly can take anywhere between 50 to 200 hours, depending on how much you're doing with it. And I'm going to try to show you a bit of what goes into these puppets that you see on the main stage, and what I've learned to make them last, and what I've learned to make them fit the performer. Just so you get an idea of something that I learned by myself by watching things and reading things. And if you want to make a puppet as epic as this, or even more epic, you can. You just have to make it. So today we're going to start with step 1, how to design a puppet. Oh, I hear you're gonna make a puppet. This is so exciting. Are you ready? Are they ready? Yeah, they're ready. They're ready. Here we go. Let's talk about what goes into designing a puppet. This, I thought I'd share with you, is a very special book. I have many of these, but this is a book of a lot of the drawings of the different starlings. This is the bird that you saw at the beginning of the video. And when I design a bird, I sketch and draw. I have so many different color markers and pencils. One of my favorite things to use is a Sharpie. But I usually draw and sketch and think about the character that this puppet needs to be and what the story is that the puppet needs to be. And then I start drawing, and then when I finally get one that I really, really like, I start thinking about, am I going to use fur? Am I going to use fleece? Am I going to use all sorts of things that we'll talk about at that point of the design process? But I just have books of different puppets that have been, these are all different starlings that have been through the years at NWCT. And so I was looking through my drawings and thinking about what would be fun to make, and I've made so many birds for the starlings, but I would like to make a monster, because I have not made a monster puppet. And so I started drawing some different monsters, some different ones that I thought would be really fun. This was a big green blobby monster. This was a pink blobby monster. And then I was going to pick one of these, but I thought we should start from scratch and design a monster together. So let's start with some drawing. I have been drawing a bunch of monsters and thinking about this, and I know I want to make a hand puppet, something that's going to go on my hand. I'm going to draw for you the puppet that I've kind of had in mind. This puppet is going to have very big eyes. Probably on the larger size. And when I draw my puppets, I usually start in pencil so I can go forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and erase. And when I finally like kind of where it's headed, I'll go over it in black ink. So you'll see that in a minute. So it's gonna be a little faded here. But I want a monster, and I do want to work in fur. So we are going to, and usually as I decide the materials that the puppet's gonna make on, I write that on the piece of paper, because I'll actually put the material samples on the final sketch. So I know I'm going to use fur. I know I'm going to use fleece. That's as far as I know so far. So I've been dreaming of a monster, a friendly monster, I think. And I kind of want a bit of a bulbous nose on this monster. And I've been thinking of these little like pom-pom things on either side of its head. I thought that could be kind of fun. And I would kind of like a little bit of a goofy expression and some teeth. Where I was going. I always start with the eyes, because that's really one of the things that makes the puppet come most to life. It's a little bit of a furry head. So normally, and I have been sketching this one for a while, and they change every time I re-sketch it. It looks a little bit different. I'm not loving the nose on that one. Also, I tend to, when I draw, it's really step one until I really start sculpting with the materials to make the puppet. And we're actually going to make this puppet, we're going to make a pattern out of it. So we're actually going to make it out of clay, and I'll show you how I make a pattern based on a clay mold. So this drawing is really just to get the basic idea of what I think I want to get. It helps me think and dream about what I want the puppet to look like, and then once I get my actual hands on it, that's when I really start playing with the shape. Anyway, I want a little bit of a neck on it, and then I've also been thinking about a little bit of I don't even know if I'm going to give it feet yet, but I've been thinking about kind of like a hopping creature with a belly, something that a cute little belly that you probably want to rub. Questions I have is should it have a tail or should it have feet? I don't know yet, and I might not know until we get there. So I play with that, I'll draw that, and I'm not in love with that one, so I might draw it a few times until I start getting one that I really like. So I'm going to draw for a little bit. This is the one I'm really liking. And this is still in pencil. I think I am going to do some feet, and I think I am going to do a tail, unless when I start building it, I feel like that's too much. So the next step for me is finishing the sketch a little bit more and then kind of deciding what I'm gonna make it out of, and that's where I'm gonna ask you for some help. So I'm just gonna ink this out. So this is what it looks like when it's in pencil. The reason I draw it, one is to kind of keep it gives me something to work towards even if it changes as I start building the actual puppet. It just gives me, it's a blueprint for where I'm headed, or it reminds me of where I'm headed, even if I change my mind as I go along. And also I just like having a reference as I go. It gives me kind of something to inspire to. So next I'm going to ink this out. So we have our sketch. This is the original one, and I'm actually going to put that away. I'm going to save it, so I'm going to sign it so I'll know it's the original. Always important to put your name on the things that you draw. So that's going to go in my files. And the reason that one's going to go away is it's black and white. I like the look of it. So to me that's a done one. So that'll go into my file. And then I have a photocopy machine. So I made some copies. I made more than I need. I'm going to play with 3 different versions of this puppet color-wise. But I made extra copies because sometimes I make mistakes. So those will also go in my file. And now I have 3 versions, and here is where you come in. So this is where we're headed. This is a finished puppet. This one has been designed and patterned and put together and covered with all the stuff that I wanted to put on it. In this puppet, we are going to use some fur. I'd like to use some of this, which is called Atron fleece or Muppet fleece. We'll talk more about that. We're going to make some custom eyes. I've got some different sizes that are available there. What I need your help with is what color are we going to make this puppet? Now, normally I decide whatever color I want, but I don't have everything in the shop. So there's 3 main colors that I think we can play with, and I would like to color each one of my drawings in each one of those options. We'll show you all 3 versions. You say which color you'd like to see, whoever the most... Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Talon, will you write it out right? We're going to pick one. Just so you know, the main 3 colors we're going to pick or play with are a bluish one, a yellowy one, or an orangey pinky one. I do think, though, the belly on the animal, maybe the feet, maybe around the face, maybe the eyelids, maybe the tail, I think the main color of these will be an orange, a yellow, or a blue. And we'll pick, I've got enough scrap for maybe it'll be orange and pink, or yellow and green. So as I draw, I might throw some other colors in there based on what I know I have. The other thing that we'll get to play with is fur. I have so much fun fur in this puppet shop. I collect it everywhere I go. Ooh, let me show you a new fur I just got. These are 2 new furs. I'm not going to use these for this puppet, but this is a new fur I got. How fun is that? Isn't that fun? And then this is another one I got that I'm really in love with. It's a really cool fur. These came from LA in the fabric district. So I'm always hunting for fur. I buy my fur online. I go places and find it. Sometimes I cut up coats to get it. I'm going to draw these and let you see what it's like when I color them in. 3 different versions. And then I'm going to ask you to say which color you like the most. And then next week, I'll tell you what color won. And we'll start making a mold and a pattern of this puppet so we can make it out of the color, fabric, and fur that we want to use for the puppet. Yay! So I've been drawing for a little bit and I've got some light sketches. These were kind of rough because I did them kind of fast, but at least it's going to give us an idea of which direction we could go. Once we pick, I will probably do one more sketch of one that I really like. So our options are the green and blue monster, the pink and yellow monster, and the orange and gray monster. Tell me which one you like the most. Thank you for helping out, and then once we've got your input, next week we'll start patterning our puppet for the stage. Thanks so much. Bye!